presentation people here, Russell Eaton and Constant Laubscher. Welcome and thank you.
All right, I'm Russell Eaton. This is Constant. Constant is the designer and creator of the laser cut pen kits, and that is what we're going to feature in the demo this evening. I took the liberty of stealing a few of his kits and doing kind of a progress story stick, whatever you want to call it. This is a fireman kit, and they do have that available here, and this is obviously what it looks like when you come out, less the tube, and this one would be with all the parts inserted and all the infilling done, and this would be rough turned with a CA finish to give you an idea of what it looks like once it's completed. I'm going to put Constant on the spot since he's the guru here. And this is just a standard horse kit. It's a white maple, correct?
Yeah, curly maple.
Curly maple with the horse inlay that is black, and that's standard with the kits. Oh, I'm sorry. That's standard. Where am I at here?
Hold on.
Probably right there.
Yeah, about there you go.
Okay, that's normal. Don't think anything's broken. That's what the kit looks like when it comes out of the box. You're going to get a barrel. The barrel, everything's cut out of the barrel. On this kit, when you take it out, don't throw everything away, because one of the pieces you're going to need, the piece inside the front legs, has to go back in. Otherwise, it's not going to look natural with black legs and a black filler piece in the middle.
All right.
I'll pass this around.
Yeah, like Russell said, my name is Constant, and I started making these kits, and I just enjoy it, and creativity all the time, and that's where we go there. I also just want to thank you guys for the opportunity that we can be here tonight and share some of our ideas there. I know you guys are probably more pros when it comes to turning. I turn a lot, but don't go all the way to the finish there. I make a pen here and there, but that's as far as we go. Okay, so let's start with the kit. Where can we work here? Can I move this? Let's see where we. Can we focus this thing?
I've got two cameras on you.
Okay. Okay, normally when we do these kits, or the way I try to design them is that they can fit different pen kits. Now when we're talking about pen kits, I don't know how many of you guys are pen turners here? Everyone? Most of you guys. Okay, so when you get a pen kit, some has longer tubes, thinner tubes, all kinds there. So what I try to base these on is the most standard one, which is called the Sierra or the Wall Street or the Gatsby of those. And the tube sizes are the 27/64. Now, you get the click pen, which is a little bit shorter. Then you get the pencil, might have a different one there, it's longer tubes and stuff there. So I try to make the barrel longer than what it needs to be there. So there's a different process you have to go through to make these things work there. So first, when you get the kit there, the most important thing is there that do not glue the tube, the brass tube in first there, because once you glue it in, it's going to take up space where the little pieces needs to go. And still under it there. All right, so the first thing is you're going to put a piece of sheet of paper or something down there. You knock out all the pieces, and the reason why I'm cutting these there, it's kind of a standard for all the kits there. I cut everything out and leave it in there because it keeps the integrity of the blank there, because sometimes in the shipping things shake around there, or they fall, or someone dropped them there, and this is not too complicated there, but you get ones that's very fragile. When you drop the blank, it's going to break there, or if you push a little bit hard on it there. So I try to keep all the pieces there, and it holds everything together. So the first thing you would do is take out all the pieces there. Now I would normally just knock the pieces there, whatever ones the fallout falls out there. Other than that, you have to take a tweezer or your hands. I'm just going to borrow one of these things here.
There's a dental peg there too if you need it.
Can you see?
Put it on this and then you can see all the pieces.
Okay, yeah, let's throw it there. All right, there we go. Okay, I can't work this tweezers, so I'll just use my hands. Come on. And then sometimes what happened now there, I broke one of the pieces there, but that's also all right. Russell will fix that. And then what same thing. Let's do this.
We couldn't get the focus last week.
All right, hold on. I got it on this one.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, the same thing is for the inlays there. When I cut it out, I tried to cut them out that they all stay together. Many times you have a handful of pieces. If I can, I try to keep them together, that they're all there, so you don't have to search which piece goes where and what. If it's very complicated kits there, they are all numbered, so I number every piece there, and then in the instructions, I put in which order they have to go together, or where you have to start, and then from there you can just bolt them there. This one is not complicated, so it's not numbered all there, and it's can only go in one place. Okay, so we break all the little pieces apart there, that we have them in a certain order. All right. So now is the more difficult part. Okay, so what you would do now is the first thing is just slide the brass tube in, and all that is going to do for you is just to support the barrel, that you don't implode it when you push hard on it to get the pieces in there. And I always try to keep another, well, I've got plenty, but to keep a pen blank, a square pen blank with you. When you put a piece in, just push it with that. Yeah, there we go. So you can push it with that into the blank there, so it's kind of level with the tube. So on this one you would start with the head part first, and then you have to go with the tail section. And then you have to go with the legs. Yeah, it's just like a puzzle.
You cut those parts out of a tube?
Yes, no, the parts are also out of a tube, yeah. So I would have a black tube or a red tube, or whatever the colors are, yeah. So they have the rounded surface there.
You have to make an adjustment for when you burn the white tube,
Yes, sir.
when you burn the black?
Yeah, what I do when I cut them, I use a program, it's called CorelDRAW. So it's just, you can use any graphics program for that. But you have outline, so that you cut out of the barrel, but then you have to compensate for the width of the cut. So you would add 3,000ths or 2,000, sometimes 7,000ths to the cutout. Depends on the hardness of the wood and how much would burn away to get a nice tight fit. And here is where I can't really see. And one bad thing of using a tweezer, when you work with these little pieces, if you pinch too hard, you just go plink and it's gone. And that's normally, for me it's not a problem because I just grab another kit and I go, but if you just pay $20 for one, it is a problem.
And you can't find it in a sawdust pile.
Normally you don't. Yeah, normally you don't. So this is pretty much how you put it together. So the whole kit is together at this point. Now, Russell do it differently than what I would do it. So I don't know which method we would stay with. But what I would do at this point, you can push the brass tube out. The whole thing will support itself there. Different ways of doing it. You can wrap it with masking tape, either the green one or the blue one, doesn't matter what the color is. You wrap it, and one way of doing it is just hold your blank and pour thin CA on the inside and kind of just roll it around. So you basically saturate all the little seams and joints there with it, but it's still open on the outside. There's a step that he will show you later, how we're going to fill these little gaps where the lines are cut. Now on this specific one there, The reason why I use black is it's impossible to fit this horse in as one piece. So I have to cut it lengthwise to get it in, and by cutting it, it basically leaves a mark there. So if I had used red or green or blue or white, you would see the line, no matter how tight you're going to join that. And so we use black. By the time you're done finishing it, you don't see it, or it's very little that show up for it there. And if I have a design, there's one on this little stick here, that's the fireman kit, then I do the opposite. The design would be a solid piece, and I cut the blank, which is black, in little strips and pieces, so you can fit that around that, and that's how you get around it there. Or you have to break up the design, where you have a flower or a wing or a beak or something, depends on what the kit is there to make it work. So at this point, once you've poured you take your brass tube out, you pour the thin CA on the inside, your kit is together, and from that point onwards, you pretty much go like you do any pen there. If it was just a piece of wood or so, you would glue in or scuff your brass tube, you can glue it in there. But now we have this problem where the tube is slightly longer than what the brass tube is. So we have to cut the barrel shorter. Once again, there are many ways of doing that. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, I've got lots of equipment, so it's easy. Just walk over to this piece there, cut it off, do it, and all that there. Not everyone has that there. So Russell got a small, neat little tool here. It's like just a small miter saw, so it's easy to cut your barrel lengthwise, get it on size. It's a nice clean cut, and you can carry on from there. Now I suggest you mark your barrel first on where you want to cut it off. Cut the one side, glue the brass tube in from that side because that's square, and then cut the other side off, and then you can cut it as close as you can to that. Now, once your brass tube is glued in, once again, there are different ways of doing it. I like using a chuck there. I put it inside, and then I just square off the end there. Turning wise, different ways again there. I do not use a mandrel. A lot of folks, I don't know how many of you guys use mandrels when you turn. Everyone? Yeah, now there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but it says, no mandrel, no problems. So, for me that works. I turn between centers, and I still use bushings. I think you don't. Yeah, he doesn't use the bushings, but I still use bushings, but I put it between centers. For me it works. Even if I turn two-piece pens with the cap and a barrel, I turn each one separately, but it goes quickly. And but it's just me. I like doing it that way. So
You're turning the bushing,
pardon?
you're putting the bushing in the chart?
No.
Between centers.
Between centers. So I use a revolving center like this one, and what's the other one called?
Dead center.
Dead center. Yeah. So put that in there, just between. Yeah. Any degree, it doesn't really matter as long as it grips. And I make my own, so I just make it skew, and that's it. As long as it works.
So the centers grab the brass tube?
Yeah, so that would grab the brass tube and it runs there. And the nice thing about it, you can take it out and when you put it back, it still runs true.
Yeah.
Where on a mandrel, if you just even between centers, sometimes I had it this morning, I was making a new kit there, and this part slightly shifted, that thing turned, and when I started again, there's a slightly off, so it can be off. But it's much less than what you would get in a mandrel, so the things. And it's normally not a problem when you have a big barrel that you can still turn off a lot. The problem comes in when you're already on that, 16th or less that the thickness is, and then it goes out of round there, because then you have a problem there. So this is pretty much where you end, and then I'll give it to him and he can carry on with his methods there. Yes?
Constantine, when you said when you're going to glue the parts in, you
Yes.
run thin CA in the inside?
On the inside,
turn it
yes.
around? But then do you have to use a barrel trimmer after that?
Do not use a barrel
No,
trimmer.
never ever use a barrel trimmer on these kits there. This one you can, because you got a nice solid piece. A lot of the other ones goes right to the end, and it's very fragile. If you put that barrel trimmer and that thing grips, it's just going to wind it up and break it.
I meant more for sliding the brass tube in afterward. That's no problem?
No, not at all. If you use a thin, and there's another thing. When you use a thin, do not use accelerator to do it. Because you spray the accelerator inside, you put your other glue in, you're going to get halfway, and that's where your problem is going to start. And if that happens, just take another blast tube and go from the other side and push it in. Or the only place where you need a blast tube is on the ends. I mean, I don't say make pins that way, but that way you can salvage the thing, and you're going to be good.
What about epoxy glues?
Epoxy, no, not at all. One thing that I found that might be a problem is the Gorilla Glue, because that expands, and if you want to use that and you're comfortable with it, wrap the thing in tape, so everything is intact there, glue the tube in any way you like there, and then just let it expand, but that wouldn't expand where it break the tape or anything, then you're good. Now, to fill these little cracks, I'm just going to jump the gun on that. If you glue from the outside and you pour the glue in there, it's going to fill that gap with CA glue basically. And what we do, not on this one, but he's got one here, I don't know if he's going to turn it. This is a holly inlay, so it's white, and I've cut little detailed lines on that you want to see. Now if you fill the CA on top, it's going to be very faint lines, so we use charcoal, or you can use fine dust from ebony or any of those things. You put it on there, rub it in, and then put CA over the on top there, so it's saturated, goes in, and when you turn it, those things basically stands out. That's what you want. So you don't want to use the CA before you fill in the little gaps with it, and that's basically the reason why. And also when you pour it, it goes everywhere, and it's I mean, if you do it on the inside, and that's how that works.
I'll do it on that one and show them.
Yeah. Any more questions? Any of you guys? Anything?
When you're doing a pen with an image on both sides of the tube,
Yes.
do you cut those images at the same time?
Yeah, it's a pain. It's not a pain when I cut them and you can keep it separate, it's fine, but normally, or many times, people want the things reversed. So if you hold it this way, say the horse looks this way, if you hold it this way, you want the horse the other way, or the same way. So then you have a problem, because the left is not going to fit on the right. And so you have to keep those separate, and that's where the numbering system comes in, where you have to number them, and but I do cut them at the same time. I've got just to explain, I've got, many of you have seen a laser, it just looks like a glorified printer, much bigger. And then I have what we call a rotary attachment in it there. It looks like a small little lathe, and it just turns there. Now I've modified mine that it looks just like a lathe, and like you turn between centers. So I pinch a blank between 2 points there, and that rotates and turns there and cuts the pieces out. So it doesn't matter what the orientation is or anything, it all comes together. Same with the marking, it's all done at the same time.
Does the angle of that laser change?
No.
Go around? It's all vertical.
It goes vertical straight down there, and the only thing that changes is the tube there. So when you get when you cut the barrel, you got the laser will always cut 90 degrees. Doesn't matter where it cuts there. But now what you get, if say that I do an inlay there, that's what your inlay looks like. It's like a V shape. So you never get straight edges on the inlays. So that makes it very difficult when you look at a piece. Here's a piece. Yeah, it's difficult to see it on these things there. But it doesn't matter what you cut out. If you cut out of a round barrel, you go, yeah, say I've got a barrel that goes all the way that way. And if I cut a piece out, just a plain strip, a parallel strip out of that, that's what it's going to look like to the bottom. So it always goes to the center. So that's basically what it's going to do.
The tube rotates as you're burning.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, so you got an X and Y, so the tube will turn like that, and the head will go like that, and that's how it moves around.
And one thing to bear in mind when you look at this like this, as you're breaking the pieces out of that original barrel, always try to pop them to the outside, because if you're pushing them to the inside, you're wedging it in there harder. If you pop it to the outside, it's a lot more forgiving.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, sir?
Yeah, and looking at your website, you seem to be exclusively focused on the Gatsby size pens. Are you planning to?
I do most of them. I do the other sizes. When you go the initial initial picture would be that, but once you go on there, there's a few with it. And the reason for that it is, I've got 84 different designs now. The problem you run into, you've got different colors, you've got different sizes, different, so it's absolutely an enormous headache to keep track. So I basically shut down on making stock. I just go, as the orders comes in, people, I make it. Because it's impossible. I mean, I have to have at least 4,000 kits there on the shelf to cover each and every color. And I found that if you have red, someone wants blue. If you have blue, someone wants yellow. It's never the same. And so it's pretty easy for me to do it on that basis.
I wasn't thinking so much of color variation,
Yeah.
but on the slimmer body pen.
The slimmer body pens, the problem you run into, and it's a very popular pen, the 7mm there, but there's no real estate to work with. And that's the main problem you run into. Because first of all, if you do a 7mm, there are so many names, say slimline, the wall thickness is probably 30 or more to start off with the barrel, if you just start off like that. Then it becomes pretty thick to cut through or precise, because the deeper you go, the thinner it goes. Because I have to start off at a size that I can work with, or at least bigger than what you're going to start off with, that leaves enough meat for you to turn a different shape or something. And now once you get inside with the same principle here, you're going to end up with something that's very narrow. So I have to compensate. So if I make a horse and you get the blank, it looks like this looks terrible off. It doesn't look good. But once you go in there, then you get back to the shape that it needs to look like, and that makes it difficult. And so I try to stay. There is a couple that I do for Penn State Industries, and but it's very few that I do for that. The 3/8 one, which kits are those? The Executive, Polaris, with the 3/8 tube, they find that can be done there, and most of them I have an option for that. And if there is no option, just ask. And they will probably also carry those if they need to, or if there's a thing they can just ask me, and I can do
You have
it.
a website with your designs on it?
Yes,
Right on the board.
Yes, I will, but they carry about 20 of the kits there, and there are little, you guys can send it around, would you just give it, I don't know if you guys have some there. They actually carry about 20 or so of the kits at this point.
Right on the board, right on the video. Okay.
Where is the thing? Hey! Is that good enough? Any other questions initially? Anyone?
We're still all confused. We have to see it.
Okay, yes sir.
Question, but can wait, I don't know where you want to fit this in, but about the stabilization, I looked at the website last night, you do what stabilization, I'm kind of curious about that.
How it works?
I don't know where that fits in.
Yeah, I do it, so you can ask me. What do we want to...
What size wood do you do, or is it just pen lines, do you do custom?
I do, okay, here's the thing. First, a little bit of background how the process works. What I specifically do is obviously pen blanks that I do for myself. And so 99% of all the blanks I say is just for me. The vessel I do it in is about 8.5 inches by 36 inches long. I've got 2 of those, so that's what I do it. So whatever can fit in there, that's what I can stabilize. I do it on a very high pressure, up to 5,000 psi, and it's hydraulic pressure, so it's pretty safe doing it there. But obviously, the bigger the vessel, the bigger the chance, or you can actually have to have lower pressure or much bigger wall thickness. And so for bowls, big bowls, the maximum size would be 8 inches pretty much that I can stabilize. I have done it before. If it's softer spalted woods, you gain 300% weight on a piece of wood. If it's spalted maple, something like that, so it gets very heavy and very dense when you do that there. So I don't know, sharp tools, I'm not a bowl turner. I attempt doing it there, and it didn't work out too well for me, but
I got a lot of good bowl stuff out of the deal, though.
Is it resin that you use? What kind of?
it's a resin. It's a I don't know if the name is going to make sense. Methyl methacrylate blend. So it's basically liquid acrylic, and it's heat activated there. So the way it works, so first you would impregnate it into the wood. You force it in. Okay, this is how the process starts at the beginning there. I pack the wood in there, and then I put a vacuum on it there. Now the vacuum is to remove the air, but also double as a method of getting the resin into the chamber. So after the vacuum is pulled, say for 20 minutes or so, then most of the air is out of the wood there. I switch a valve and it pulls the fluid in without introducing more air. And at that point, I just, once the vessel is filled, I would pump it in with the hydraulic pump. And so just pump the fluid in, and you can go straight from 0 to 5,000 psi, but I don't know if you guys have seen science things where they take a foam ball and tie it to a submarine and pull it down and go to 1 mile and the thing comes out this small. It's exactly what happens with the wood. I've had throwback, what did it call it? It's not maple, it's every time I've put that in, it distorts the wood completely. It crunches it where you take a 1-inch blank to that size. It just destroys it. So I kind of massage it in. You go a little bit up, you let it soak into the wood. And I don't use it anymore, but I used to have 2 pressure meters. So you blow it up or put it under pressure, say 1,000 psi. You let it sit there for 10 minutes, you would see the pressure drop. Initially it would just drop. When you switch the pump off, it will drop immediately, it goes in. Then slower, 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 and then you will see, you'll get to a point, say 3,000 psi or so, and it will just slide dead still. You can leave it till tomorrow morning for a week. I had walnut in for the other day. I had a problem with my oven. I had it in for a week, and when I want to take it out there and I release it, there was still pressure in there. So I mean, that was fully saturated, and it's overkill, but I can do. With the pressure, you can do it just with vacuum and get it into woods, but you have to do it for a long time. I have to leave it in there. And when you do it with pressure, I can get it done in 10 minutes, done.
And then after you take it out, then you cook.
Yes, and then it goes into an oven where I carry it at about, I do it about 203 degrees Fahrenheit, and the core temperature of the wooden piece or whatever you put in there needs to be about exposed to that temperature for at least 40 minutes. And actually less there, but it's around 40 minutes it needs to reach that temperature, and then it just goes by itself, and then you have plexiglass. That's pretty much what it looks like. Yeah, and then I mean it looks full of crystals and that. I've got sanding machines, so I just sand it so you've got a nice square block or round block or flat block or whatever it needs to be. And same with the pen blanks there. I mean, they look ugly when they come out there, but it's all square when it's sanded. And so that's basically how the process works. And there are many ways. I also do the resin where I add dye to it. So you dye and stabilize at the same time. Same process. Is just the only downside of that, for each color that you do, you have to have an extra bin there. And I don't throw it away because the stuff is heat activated. As long as you keep it cool, I keep it around between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It lasts forever. Last summer, I activated the drum. It was the Friday afternoon. Saturday morning was gone, and it wasn't even 90 degrees. So, and they say it only activates around almost at 200 degrees. I think 196. That one didn't work. So, so it happens. But I try to use materials that, or the resin I'm using is non-flammable, because in a warehouse, if you work, I mean, you don't want the stuff there. Sometimes you have, but it's very volatile, and it will just go like that. And so I try to use the. I'm not that environmentally friendly, but I mean, none of us is. If you take a pen blank, we worked out the other day that, I mean, I think more than 86% goes away. That's all you have left. I mean, when you're done there, it's a small percentage, so the rest goes to waste. So in that regard, I don't think any of us can qualify as green people, but I mean, we make nice stuff at the end, so.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
That whole thing, you just lost me on the whole thing. Are you talking about putting something in the wood to make the wood tougher, or are you
Yeah.
talking about making different resin blanks for your pen kits?
No, what I do is just to take a piece of wood, a dull piece of wood, or very soft wood, that's where it normally works there, yes, and add resin to it that makes it hard. Yeah, I don't do the acrylic blanks where you just cast a nice color. I mean, it's a simple principle, but yeah, I don't do that. Okay, Russell, now you can turn.
All right,
I'll go sit down.
the same blank he started out with. No, I'm gonna have to work on this thing for a few minutes before we actually put it on the lathe. Same blank, he just assembled everything. As you can tell, I guess you can see the cracks that are in there. You gotta fill them with something. So the best, blackest material I found is charcoal. It does get you dirty, but it works. I take a thick CA glue. I don't have all the toys that he has, so I have learned to improvise. And I'll take a couple of areas where I've got a pretty tight fit and just put a dab of glue to where I know I can come back once I have turned this pen blank and cap it back off. How many of y'all ever do CA finish on pens? Do you keep your lid on your CA?
No.
You do? I don't. It lasts a year whether you got the lid on it or not. I use the accelerator, hit it, and it's done. All right, you've got all that on there. Like I said, now you've got to fill the cracks. Let me know when I'm lined up here.
So basically that would have been the same as me doing the inside, so it would still have been a solid piece by the time you get to this.
How do you pulverize your charcoal? You put it against the grinder?
I stick it in one of these pen bags and take a hammer to it. I mean, it's crude, but it's effective. I don't talk with quite the same accent Constant does. Sorry about that, y'all. Easy, Ron.
He's been
And I sure don't talk
in
with
my
your
shop too
accent.
many times, that's why.
Touche, big boy. I do know Ron. Sorry, I have to confess. All right, we don't need I put a little something on the bed just to keep the CA glue off of it. And like I said, this is just match-like charcoal because I like the taste of charcoal on grills. So. And I just take and grind it in. I know you're thinking, oh my God, that pretty white blank has just turned black, and it has, but we're going to fix it in a minute. And don't be shy, because you can pull it right back off of that paper towel and reuse it. And this is with no barrel inside the pen. The barrel's still laying here on the table. It's completely hollow right now. The reason being for that is without that barrel inside there, you can take whatever you got, Tommy bar for the chuck works great, and tap it. And all those little fine charcoal particles will settle down in this part of this crack right in here and fill it in. Because any of y'all that turn the Gatsby Sierra pens? Any of y'all know what I'm talking about, how thin they are when when it's done, there's no meat left on that pen. I mean, it's bare bones. Just tap it and it'll settle all that down in there. I shouldn't have thrown my paper towel away yet. And take thin CA glue at this point because it will go down in all of the cracks. just like water. But like Constant said, you don't want to activate anytime you glue on the inside. You don't activate it, but the outside's fine. So we've got that pen blank. Right now that piece is glued in there and it's good to go. It's not, those pieces are all solid, everything's settled in. One thing you always want to do before you, back that tailstock up just a little bit. You always want to make sure that this pen blank is going to fit through there without it being restricted. Because if you get a big chunk of glue in there, I found what works really great. You can take a dowel, I like a 1/4 inch for it, but you can just take you a strip of sandpaper about a 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch wide, and just do a spiral down it, and you can file those pieces out. Don't ever put this thing back on a drill press. You have just lost a pen blank if you do, because these things, as he's doing the cutting, you've lost a lot of the structure. This one here is not as bad, but when you get something like this where it's wrapping 2/3 of the way around the pen, there's not a lot of meat left on there. So this is easy, it's neat, it's painless, and basically all you got to do here is just make the blank round to where when you put it in your little miter deal I've got over here, that it's round and it'll sit flat to where you get a somewhat flat edge on there. These pens are not, some of the designs he's got are difficult and are not for the faint of heart, one might say. You need to practice up and start on some of the ones with fewer pieces that don't wrap as far around. But biggest piece of advice I can give you is if you think you're going to turn one of these pens in 30 minutes and give it to your wife or your daughter or something, you need to forget it. You're not going to do it, because every time I get in a hurry with one of these, I end up with something either in the dust collector or the sawdust on the floor. And one thing he told you about laying the cloth or whatever on your workbench before you start, the other thing you need to do, I take a shop vac and I vacuum about 5 feet around where I'm working, because even a speck of dust makes these little pieces sometimes hard to find, and black's hard to find in a basement anyway. So y'all will have to forgive me. I am not the greatest turner in the world. I know there's other tools that you can use for this, but I like the control this gives me. And as you can tell, all your ugly blacks going away, and that's how you know you're getting it round. And that's all you're trying to do at that stage, just make a round pen blank. So you can tell those cracks on there, you can still see the gap, but if you want to see what it looks like, that's what the gap's going to end up looking like. And it's going to be less than that once you get it turned all the way down to your shape.
Yeah, many times when you do these kits there, you see a gap there, but the same principle like I said there, everything goes in there, so the deeper you go, that's why you also have to press on the inlay to make sure it's nice and tucked inside there, and that will prevent it from having gaps when you're done.
Alright, your horse kit, I just try to roughly center them, just because the outside of these, and as you can tell when I'm marking this, I'm marking it out past the end, and that's because we're going to throw the chuck back on here, and I'll show you how to square these up. And since I started doing this, I rarely use a pen mill anymore. I have them just for slim lines and such like that, but I really don't use pen mills on my pens anymore, just because this way here, you know it's square. There's no doubt about it. There's no room for error. It's perfectly square, and it's the easiest way I know of to make it like that and not being abusive on there. I don't know, do you want me to move this little miter saw down that way?
No, I can zoom in.
Okay.
Right in the corner there, yeah.
Yes, sir. Like I said, this is just a standard little cheap miter saw. I don't know where I picked it up, but I don't have all the high-dollar equipment like Constant does in my shop yet, but I'm working on it.
Mine works just like this, it just has motors on it.
Yeah, his is run by Georgia Power. Mine's run by
Eaton Power.
Frontiers. And I have tried doing this on a bandsaw before, but I have seen a $20 laser cut kit just get shattered when I have a small catch, and that's kind of aggravating.
Where'd you get that little miter saw?
I don't know. There's, about anywhere's got them. Penn State, any places like that carry stuff like that. So.
Right out here?
Yeah, they may have them here. I'm not sure. I think I bought that before I realized these nice people were here. All right.
Yeah, and if you guys have problems with these pens or you get to a point that's not sure, call me anytime. I mean, I talk many people through making pens, so if you have a problem, I mean, I might have not the right answer for you, but I will have an answer.
We all live close by.
Yeah, and you're welcome to come to my shop there. There's plenty to do turning there.
Your dental wax works perfect for clogging the end of the barrel tubes. It works awesome.
I've just learned something.
People use apples, they use slice of potatoes, they use all kind of stuff to do that with. It just depends on what you.
I wouldn't show my method.
No, I'm not going to show your method either. What'd I do with that? Let me see that box. I'm going to glue this over the box so I don't get glue all over the floor.
I thought you were just going to.
Alright, like I said, this principle, you're just putting glue in the tube. This is thick CA glue. I put it in the tube, let it stand upright. I put a bead around in the barrel, and then I put a bead around the tube.
Did you scuff that barrel?
Thick CA glue. And like I said, I'm doing this over this because I know what a mess my floor in the basement is. I rotate it, push it in, get a little on me. That's just the way it ends up. Hit it with accelerator.
What's your source for the dental wax?
My dentist. You make him a pen, you'd be surprised how much wax he'll use. Just so happens mine likes turkey hunting too, and I made him a nice striker, so it's pretty much all I have to do is show up, and he asked me, do you need any wax? So that's just all I did for him, and he's...
You make a pen with a tooth design on it?
No,
not yet. I should.
No.
I don't go to the dentist.
His dentist is in South Africa, and that's kind of a long trip, so...
Trust me, it's cheaper there than you might come back without teeth. But.
All right.
You go in and ask him if he borrows his dental drill.
I don't even like the sound of that. Right. This, as you can tell when I marked it, I've got excess on one end. I'm pretty close on the other. And this is a trick that Constant taught me. And it really helps out. And if I act like I don't know what I'm doing on this lathe, I've got a little MIDI Delta that I've been turning on, and I absolutely love it. But I don't use this one near as much. I usually just keep a drill chuck mounted to this one, and I turn on my Delta most of the time now. This thing is fairly round. You can bring the tailstock up like that just to make sure you're locked in right. Where's the other one? Over here. Oh. You can lock it in just to make sure. this one's got a lot more on the end of it, so it'll take a little bit longer to
And
get.
if you do it this way, sometimes, especially on the more fragile kids there, take your time. If you have a guide, use a guide, but be gentle.
You can use the 60 grit skew and it works pretty good.
Yeah, that works also good.
But, I'm not going to tell you how I know about that. But there again, I have tried the barrel trimmers, and it's not advisable. As soon as you see that shine on the side, you know you're there, and you haven't taken enough off to matter. These kits, you can take close to 1/8 of an inch off of it, and it'll still be fine. If you get any more than that, then you run into problems with the transmission working right. Don't
Except
ask
if
me
you
how I
only
know
have
that
one
either.
kit left.
Yeah, usually that's exactly right. When you're down to your last kits, when you have that problem.
Scraping or even when your pieces come to the end of the tube, you can still use this scrape it like over the skew and not run the risk of chipping something out.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That works fine. Just be gentle, push it in, and till you see the brass tube, and it's good.
All right, this right here, like I say, Constant's way, he turns with bushings between centers. If you've got the tools he's got at his shop and can true a set of bushings where it's perfectly round, I've bought them and looked at them, and the hole in the center be offset all the way over to one side. And any of y'all, I'm sure everybody's here has seen bushings that are no good anymore. The only thing I use this bushing for is for my caliper somewhere to verify that I'm turning to the right size. This caliper doesn't even have batteries in it. That's all I use it for. Now I know I'm set. You're the same size on both ends, so there's really not a lot to worry about.
How do you clean the interior of the barrel if there's any glue in there?
I have a punch, center punch. There again, there's about anywhere you want that you can get them. Generally, when you use the dental wax to close that tube, when you glue it in, there's very, very little that's inside there. I have,
With wax?
sir?
You seal both ends?
Just one end, because I'm not gluing the other end. I just push it through and the glue pops out the backside. This is a inside reamer. It's actually made for reloading, but that right there, and you've cleaned your ends up and it's perfect. It's ready to go. Your pieces will press in and it won't be any problem at all. That's a RCBS item. For any of you know anything about reloading, you'll know exactly where to get it. This may start squeaking because every time you take that number 2 Morse taper in and out, until it seats completely, this piece will give a little bit. Doesn't really matter which way you have it on here facing, the same result. I turn wide open and sand slow. I'm going to try to do this without blowing it up in front of the audience. If I do blow it up, y'all be sure and laugh good and loud. And I use a skew exclusively. I'm sure there are people out there that see this right here and think, oh yeah, he's fixing to turn. That's to show you what not to use. Leave it somewhere else. Leave it by your big lathe. I just find I can get a little more accurate with a skew down at the ends. One other thing on these kits, I don't try to make them bubble shaped in the middle for any other reason than there's a lot more detail if you leave it thicker. Like for instance, the Praying Hands kit, there is so much in that kit as far as knuckle grooves and stuff like that. I'll turn it around in a few minutes and show you. The thicker you leave it, the more detail you're going to have left in there. The further down you get it, the less chance of you seeing the wrinkles around the knuckles and the fingernails and all that kind of stuff. The thinner you get it, the less detail there is, because he can only burn it so deep without burning it all the way through, and then you've got 1,000 pieces to inlay instead of just 2 big ones. So it does make
Yeah, those are for the advanced people.
Right, and I'm not there.
I haven't found those.
Stop periodically and check. Like I said, this is just a 60-degree live and a 60-degree dead center. There's nothing special about it. They're just case hardened. This lathe rocking's bugging me, sorry. A little better now.
This bench is true, though.
I'm not doubting the bench.
We made it, it's true.
Yeah, put this little brush in there. That's good. Put that there.
I think it's good now.
It's got 2 tons of glue in this thing.
Hey, I'd like to have it at my house. I'm not going to lie to you. Don't know where I'd put it, but I'd like to have it.
This was made by a committee.
15 years. Is that a Republican or a Democrat?
Independent.
It's called done by committee.
Okay, you can see I am almost there. I mean, it just needs just a little bit off. Because of the way I do the CA glue finish, I'll take it down to where this piece will fit completely over the end of the barrel, because you're going to turn around and build it right back up with the super glue. It doesn't take much to build it right back up either.
It's weird, but it does.
And yeah, I know I'm checking this a lot, but it's a whole lot easier to take a little more off than it is to put a lot more back on. And you can already see the brass on the edge. You can kind of, that's good there. That will work. If you get that skew working right, you can start off sanding with 400 grit. I sand with 2 grits before I start CA finish, 400 and 600. And I turn with the speed on the highest setting when I'm turning it, and when I start sanding, I back it down to the low speed, and I'm still on the high belt range on the little jet lathe. I do the same thing on the Delta. I've gotten to where I really like that Delta because the low speed range is about 500 RPMs lower than the low speed on this in the same belt setting, and it does make a difference.
Is the white maple or holly?
Maple. The holly, Constant's holly, is as white as that can right there. I mean, there's no doubt when it's holly on his. And most of the maple he's got, I don't know if you can see, this has got a little bit of figure and curl in it. And it really looks cool in the kits with the black. I don't know where you can tell this black has got a decent amount of curl in it also, to where you can actually see some iridescent in there. And They really, really look good when they're finished, and they got a good slick finish on them.
I should have been looking up there and I wouldn't have had to ask that question.
I'd be all right.
Look over there.
And that joker is sanded. Now, generally speaking, when I'm at the house, right now I would take an air compressor and blow that pin blank off, just because you get any of the white that's on there out. I didn't bring my air compressor with me, so first step on the CA finish that I do, I always soak the blank with accelerator, and it just takes a dab.
So the logic behind that, I don't know who else is doing it there, but what I started doing, because in the beginning, any of you guys using CA, where sometimes you get these white little bubbles in it.
Paper towel.
You get the white bubbles in the finish, you have to go all the way back and start over, and a 35-minute pen becomes a 3-hour pen. And so what I started doing is first spray accelerator and then put the CA on. And the reason for that is it hardens from inside out. Because if you spray it on top of the CA, it forms a little crust and blocks all the, I mean, it can't vent. And you do it for all the layers. Doesn't matter if you use thick, medium, or thin, it works for all of that. So I do, we got a totally different approach on how we finish. The finish end up being the same, but I use 3 coats of medium that I put on, and I pour it on. I cut a lot of off at a later stage, but I put it on, and very, very rarely do I get those little white bubbles, because it is annoying if you get that. And so
if you think just because I've stopped this, that's not activating anymore, Constant actually met with one of the lab guys from Stickfast on an unrelated deal, and the guy told him, if you hose down a piece of wood with Stickfast, it will remain as an activator for 24 hours on that piece of wood. Wow. You do not need to reapply it because you waited 5 minutes to go back and hit it. It will actually keep its activation properties for a full day. So that's something, it may save you some activator, who knows. Thank you.
Yeah, if you spray accelerator, try to buy the tins. Now they've changed it, it sprays a fine mist there, but it used to, when you get brands there, it's like really pours it out, it splatters. And when you spray accelerator over the CA, and it splatters that much, I mean, it just makes a mess there. Where the fine mist hasn't got that effect on it, and it dries evenly.
The pump sprayers, they tend to blow out bigger particles. It's not atomized as much as the aerosol
but
is.
if you do use
those big particles, that's a lot of times where that bubble comes from as well.
Yeah, and if you do use that, that's where it comes in handy, if you apply it between the coats and not after you've just put it on, because you can basically wet it and then use a paper towel, spread it evenly, let it dry, and then apply your CA. Next coat, and that works great doing it that way.
You want to take a break now?
That'd be good.
All right. Like CA glue in the eyes. I had a nice piece folded up here somewhere. All I do for the CA finish, I'll just take one sheet, fold it up. The lathe is still on low. I put the thin CA on the paper towel and it will wick. Oop, that's not thin. It will wick onto the lathe.
Masking tape on your finger?
Russell, they ask if it's masking tape on your finger?
Yeah, because that thin CA glue soaks through real quick and it gets hot. And after you've lost a couple of fingerprints, you realize you need to protect it somehow. And that's just the cheapest way I know of doing it. I keep a roll of blue tape right there by the lathe.
What I use for putting the CA glue on is a worn-out piece of sandpaper, the Velcro on the back, the polyester loop, and it holds it, it doesn't run, and it doesn't activate it like a paper towel. It would. And you can just brush it on and then throw it away.
Constant actually uses the bag that the pin parts come in. He'll stick that on his finger and go back and forth, but I don't know.
The little tiny loops on that hold the CA glue from running.
I got you.
It stays right there.
Like I said, there's 100 different ways to do CA finish, and mine's probably different than everybody's here. And I know it's different than Constant's. I just put a dab on the paper towel, go back and forth, hit it with the accelerator. Don't hose it, just brush it across there. Another dab on the paper towel, back and forth across there.
Are you using thin now?
Nope, this is medium. First coat is thin, and that's just to seal the pores in the wood. But since I got in a hurry and screwed that one up, I did thick, I think, on the first one. I'll do 3 or 4 depending. This one's pretty close.
There's one thing that I can, Mark Soleil teaches that when you do the bowls, he likes to use brown paper and all kinds of organic material to go before you put the finish on. Now when you work with pens,
Can you see?
Especially with the colors, and you want something to brighten up, do not use that method. What happens there, it closes the pores, and I've showed it to him before, where I do half a pen or just a blank, and I do that same method there where you use the organic material or paper or whatever you have, sand it a bit or rough it up a bit, and then the other side you don't. And when you use the thin CA, it saturates the end that you didn't do, and it brightens the colors, the other part stays dull. He might still have a pen, I don't know if he has a pen there that looks like that.
Burnish it too much, it closes the pores up?
Yes, and the thin CA wouldn't bring it wouldn't be as bright at the end when you do it.
The color doesn't pop.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't,
So these ones just sand it and blow the dust off and do the thin CA.
What grit do you go to when you sand it then?
220 is good enough for me, then I carry on from there with the thin CA.
You're going to fill any of your cracks up with a CA glue.
As long as you don't see any scratches, then you're good. If you still see ring scratches on it, don't. Go progressively higher with the sandpaper.
I spared no expense on this parting tool. And yeah, it is a modified screwdriver. I have successfully glued that pin to my live and dead center with the CA glue. This is the part where you got to be real careful. You just want to barely go across that. Constant puts more glue on his, therefore he's taking more back off. And as you can tell by looking at that, can you see the shine? The spots where you can see the shine? That's a low spot and you haven't touched it. With my method, don't go down until the whole blank is dull, because by then you're so thin you don't have enough left to polish. I'll take the same blank and sand it until it's dull all the way across, and that way I've taken as little off as I can and still left CA on the blank. 400 grit. I rarely put anything rougher than 400. I've still got some shine on the ends and a couple of spots in the middle. The whole horse is basically black though. That's it. And this is just standard micro mesh. And I'm sure they probably sell this here. It's a standard size sheet. I cut it in half just because it works better on the pen kits. sand your blank between every grit, because if you don't, you're transferring grit from one pad to the next, and before you know it, you think you got 12,000 grit and you're actually sanding with 2,500. It doesn't take much. The main thing about these kits is take your time and don't let them intimidate you. If you have problems, like Constant said, if you call him, he'll talk you through it. Don't think I haven't had to be talked through them before. It's getting a good shine on it now.
Is that medical pen? Is that a difficult one to start with? No, okay.
No, it's not a difficult
I got a
one.
couple surgeons I got.
Do you put a thin coat and how many medium coats?
3 or 4. This Gatsby kit that we're going to put this on is really forgiving as far as when you're done, if you've thickened it up too much, you're not going to be able to tell it, because you're mating a flat surface up to a rounded surface, and the rounded surface is more proud like this, so when it comes in, you've got more to butt into there. Anybody that's done these pens knows what I'm talking about. That's a pretty decent finish. The only other thing I do from there, have any of y'all ever used Novus on your CA finish? It's basically just a fine scratch remover. I'm not sure if they sell it here. I know Constant says you can get it in the tile section at the box stores, the plexiglass area.
Is this a sealer or what is that?
It's a polish.
Scratch remover.
Plexiglass cleaner.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it'll make this pen blank so slick you about can't hold it. And it's done. Now you have a small, very small lip on both ends of CA glue that's overhanging this. This is another trick Constant taught me. Piece of sandpaper in a circular motion held flat. And you can see the shiny brass all the way around it. Same thing on the other end. This is 280 grit. I don't like going any lower than that, just because you don't want to take it off too fast. And there we are again. You can use the grip, the quick clamps to assemble these, but after you've had 2 or 3 of them, or you've tried doing that, and the piece is actually bent, it's gone in and it's cracked your pen barrel, you'll realize that that price they want for a pen press is really not that much money.
We got them here.
Exactly. It's not that much money, is it? This one's not wanting to cooperate. There we go.
That's a Gatsby.
Correct. And these are kind of peculiar the first couple times you run them in and out.
Sir, plenty of Gatsby.
That's the completed pen.
Cool. You want to pass that around?
Yes, sir.
You want it back?
I got 25 minutes and I can knock another one of these out if you want to watch me turn one more, a different style. I've already got one.
Hands at least.
The what?
The one with the hands, the frame hands to at least smooth that out.
Good, Russell.
Yeah, I can smooth it out. When I was drying that off, that's something else I meant to mention. This is one of the oldest towels I had at the house, and it has been washed so many times. It's extremely soft. I was using it for this and I was doing great, and I spilled a Coke in the basement one day. I cleaned it up with it and I said, oh heck, I'll just go get another old towel out of the laundry, and came back downstairs and I started noticing the pen had streaks in it, and I couldn't figure out what the difference was. The difference was the old towel was softer than the new towel, and the new towel was leaving streaks. So luckily I'm not one to take the trash out in the basement a lot. I went and dug through it, found it, took it upstairs and washed it. My wife doesn't know that, and lo and behold, I've got something that does a good job again. You want that, Constance? You can have it.
This is what, one
I might
that
take it.
has been glued in.
Right, it's been glued in. I've already done the charcoal trick. Everything's done. It doesn't have a tube in it yet.
This is the one that you said if you took it down too far, we'd lose the detail.
Yes, and I'll pass this around and you'll see what I mean by losing the detail. Watch it how much this thing changes from start to finish here. And the praying hands and the cross kits are actually the single inlay. The inlay of the cross is olive wood and the other is holly.
Yeah.
And then the one with the double inlay, like I've got one done over there already finished. The one with the two with the outline, the blank is
Bethlehem
Bethlehem olive wood, and then the inlay is, I think I did the red maple on that one. No, that's Bethlehem olive wood. There's one over there with a cross, I think a red cross. You see the detail in that? I mean, I know I've still got a flat spot on here.
Okay, all right, hold on. All right. Okay.
And I can pass that around. And if you get one of these,
That's the inlay.
right, that's the other inlay. And both of these are Bethlehem olive wood. This has got holly for an insert, and that one has got holly and red, dyed red curly maple, I believe.
Are those black blanks dyed, or are those black?
Yes.
Yeah,
They are dyed maple as well. Most of them are a form of maple. Maple, holly, olive wood, that's the basis pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, all the colors.
Right.
Sometimes I use basswood because it absorbs, it goes pretty hard with the resin there, but it absorbs the color pretty good. So if you want a really black blank without grain, it works great.
This is one I'll do real quick. I'll just have to go through here because I know Miss Heather would like to go home tonight. So we'll try.
You sleep, but I do. So
I haven't had a day off in 25 days, and I'm taking the whole weekend.
Everything is stabilized in the kits. I don't use anything non-stabilized. Because the problem you run into if you don't use stabilized woods and it might be dyed, if you use CA glue, it dissolves the thing, and it bleeds into the other colors. Where this way it doesn't. You can use white holly and blood red. It stays separate.
When you laser engrave a pen, not cut a kit,
Yeah.
you just use is it better to have just a barrel, or do you have a way of holding the whole pen?
If there's a design that goes bigger than just the top surface that you see of the pen, say you want a logo or something, it's better just to have the barrel, because I can turn it around so you can basically have the design going around it. If it's just the name engraved on it, I can just lie it down and just engrave the lane straight.
Better not have a finish line.
No, I prefer, because many times people want to fill it in with the color. So if you just send the barrel to me, they put at least one coat of CA on it, or lacquer or whatever, doesn't matter. Because say you want to fill it in with red or white or blue, so it doesn't bleed into the wood. Because many times people, not all pens are stabilized, so it will just wick in and bleed into the wood. So if you have the CA, at least it's confined to that area. And also very open grain woods, say like walnut or oak or something like that. You like to finish it that you don't see the grain and then engrave, because especially if you want to fill it in. Because say you get people want to put in silver, it's rub and buff or something, you rub it in, but it goes in all the other little pores there, and it just doesn't look good. Pardon? I use anything. I can write a book on, but it's rub and buff you can, and then I normally put CA over that again. Yeah, works great. Yeah, gilder's wax also works great. It's just a little bit harder than the other paste there. I kind of rub a piece off and use that. It works great. And for a lot of pens like these, especially, or one of them, the Patriotic Eagle, there are little stars that I've cut out, but it's too small to make a star to insert into the hole. So I use plain old spackle that you use for drywalling. Put it in, it dries in an instant, or not an instant, but very quickly. It stays pure white, you finish with CA over it, and it looks great. And so that I use for filling there. Even many of the other pens, like the Stars and Stripes, for the stars, people always, it takes me 3 hours to put it in. Just put spackle in the holes there. They're pure white, looks great, and very quick to get around it.
I have a question that you don't seem to have a problem with. I took a piece of Purple Heart and Yellow Heart, glued it together. When I sanded it, it appeared that I had pores in the Yellow Heart that absorbed the Purple Heart solvent and made it, I couldn't keep the sharp yellow.
This is stabilized. All those gaps have been filled with plastic, basically. So the pores of the woods are closed. That's the reason there's no bleed over between colors, and that's the reason he can get the crisp red to blue, red to white without it bleeding from one to the other.
Okay.
That's the reason behind that.
how did you keep the yellow heart, purple heart from bleeding?
I coated it good with sandy sealant.
After the sand, then if you get it really good with the air compressor, air, and you blow all that stuff out of the
What's going on there?
It's not gonna burn, it's just gonna smoke for a minute.
Just want to make sure, much easier to put out a small flame. Yeah,
On your stabilized wood,
yes, sir.
use any kind of finish like lacquer or catalyzed lacquer on top of it, it's still in here, or?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, any of those things, it still stick to it, yeah.
And I actually remember to do the thin CA first on this one, so.
And even wood glue, you can still glue pieces with wood glue, it works great. Yeah, yeah. Your hardwoods, if you take maple or something like that, and you stabilize that, you're only getting, I would say, probably 50% weight gain that you get on it there. So there's plenty of wood left, and that it will still act like wood. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never gone that route.
I'm parting the pin blank from my 60-degree live and dead centers. Basically is what I'm doing. I mean, you can take this and you can go up that, you see all the pieces flying off. It's got glue all over it. I've got a 60-degree live and dead center, and the only thing I use them for is pin turning. So I don't care if I get CA glue on them. I got a couple of each, so I'm not going to use my nice one-way live center with the cone on there to do this, because you're just going to trash it. This is a hardened $25 live center, so I'm not really out anything. Ma'am? PinTurnerProducts.com. Yeah, it's a standard metal lathe, number 2 Morse taper, number 3, whatever your headstock on your lathe is. I think pretty much standard now. Everybody pretty much is going to a number 2, but and it's a great tool for learning spindle turning. You can see that one's rough again. We're fixing to smooth it up. And this 400 grit sandpaper, when you're sanding CA glue, that sandpaper is not ruined, it's just gummed up. You can hit it with an air compressor and use it 3 or 4 times. But like I said, I didn't bring an air compressor, and I got a friend that gives me 400 grit sandpaper, so.
Did you say this is one piece?
The hands, yes.
That is a simple, basically.
Now, Constant can put that in one piece, but the average person is probably going to have to break it. And if you've got to break a piece to put it in, don't feel like you've screwed up, because chances are it's going to break on a grain line and it will go right back together and you will never see it. I've got half the pins in my case over there have been broken and installed and turned, and you can't tell it because that grain will mash right back up together because it's stabilized and you don't have all these little particles flying off.
Constant, are you coming up with all these designs, or are certain people
Most of them I came up with many times, or a couple of times. People would ask me to do something special, but if it's only a once-off thing, say you just want one of those. If it's a sellable item, I would normally say, well, I won't charge you, but I'm going to take the item and just put it in the market. So there are a few of those as well there. Or if I do something like with the eagle, he came up with the patriotic idea to change the colors like that, and I just added the stars. So many times we like collaborate and say, okay, just change it and come up with it.
Most of the time he tells me, shut up, mind my own business, though. Not really. We cut up a lot, though. We do have fun.
But the Stars and Stripes originally, Ken Nelson from Callahan's Woods, he came up with the design, and a friend of mine was making, that's 2005 or somewhere around there, was making a pen, and he struggled to put it together, and so I changed the design, or the way it was cut, and then there was a big struggle between me and Ken, and we just did our own things there, and he stuck to his and I stuck to mine. And
Ken didn't patent the flags, what he's getting at.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
What laser?
I've got an Explorer, it's a 100-watt machine. It's a Laser Pro or something. I don't know, I bought it long ago.
What software you use?
Just plain CorelDRAW. Yeah. There's a lot of people, and that's what makes people mad in this business, is I try to do the quickest, easiest way or efficient way to get it done there. A lot of people would say, like the puzzle design, there was a big brouhaha about that as well. I bought a thing that goes with CorelDRAW, a plug-in, and it took me 2 minutes to make a puzzle. They said it took them 45 hours to make one because they drew it out, the program, CNC program, whatever, to tell the thing to cut there. All I did was redraw the thing, get the size, say print, and there it was done. And so there are different approaches for these things. The same with these kits. I try to make it as easy as possible, even for the people making it. So like the hummingbird kit, took me 12 attempts to get that thing down there, but I try to, if I can do it in, say, under 15 minutes putting it together, I know everyone else can do it. If it takes me an hour, I have to change it, that it becomes easier for people, because you're excited up to a point where you get these things together, and then it's like, okay, I give up. And you try to stay or keep people away from that point.
If you get aggravated with it, set it down, walk away, and come back. Don't sit there and keep fighting it.
Because I've rotator fixture in the laser.
It's not a, well, it's what I call a rotary attachment. Yeah, so it turns with it there, yeah. $3,000s, yeah. Some of the things I have to cut, like the rows, because 3000s disappear once you push it in, too tight. So I actually take the, on the rows, like the petals, so I copy that and just put it a little bit offset, so it cut twice. And so it makes it a little bit broader, the lines there, so it stands out a little bit more. But on that, on the praying hands, you try to keep it as narrow as possible. And the problem is sitting there are so many lines close to each other, and you can't cut through, so you have to, you can see through, but it's still in one piece. And that's where you try to keep it, because you also have to struggle with it to get it in and kind of wrestle it. If I cut too much, then it falls apart long before you get it in. And so it's always a battle. And then also what happens, the lens gets a little bit dirty. So if I cut 200 kits, you cut 50, and so you have to clean the lens, because progressively it gets weaker and it doesn't cut as much. And so you always get a variation in the kits there. They're not from number 1 to 200, they're all perfect like that there. So sometimes that happens where you get one that there's not enough detail. Yes, sir?
How do you turn your blanks around before you cut them?
Oh, I think very fast. I give you the whole process. I started off doing it by hand, and that just took too long, and so I changed over to a duplicator, Vega, is it Vega? What do they call it? Duplicator. And so I just changed the bits. I used these normal round carbide tips, ones that made a little detachment, put it in there. So I was cutting with that for about 2 years. And so total time from cutting a blank, drilling out was 26 seconds. And but I mean, if you do 200,000 a year of these little things that you have to turn, it just takes a long time. And I did every single thing by myself, just me. So I changed that out where I use a router, and I changed the slider system where it works on 2 round bars with the bearing block and everything. So it always slides parallel, no movement, and I turn them in 5 seconds now. All by hand, but I mean, it's just like that, so yeah.
All right, y'all do me a favor. Feel underneath your chair. Somebody's got a piece of sticky paper or blue tape or something underneath there. Well, you go find one then. There's several vacant ones. You still have a shot. Miss Heather said she put one under somebody's chair anywhere. I don't know whose it is. I don't have a clue. Yeah, y'all keep looking. Somebody got to find it. There you go. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. You have your choice. Do you want the horse pen or do you want the one with the eagle?
Eagle.
There's your door prize.
Thank you.
That's a gift from me and Constant. I supplied the pen kit. Constant supplied the blank.
Thank you, guys.
I think the rest of the group probably want to see what it looks like, but